a lot of people how old this building is. It dates to the 1730s, and it was built as the State House for the government of Pennsylvania. That's why the building looks the way it does. The governor's office was upstairs. The Pennsylvania legislature met in the room across the hallway. Normally, that's who was over there. And this room before you, I think you can tell, was the courtroom. Now, what we have done is fill in the scene a little bit so you get a better idea of what it looked like original. We used antique or period furniture, a few replica items, so this room looks much as it does anywhere from the 1730s to about the 1830s. Courtrooms in the United States would continue to look like this, like a British courtroom, for about another 40 or 50 years after independence. So, typical of the British-style courtroom is this structure in front of me here. This was the dock for the accused or the defendant, and the defendant here would be close to the lawyer's table, one table for the lawyers from both sides. Now, this courtroom would have served as a reminder to anybody living here in the British colonies of the very concept of justice, that a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty, entitled to trial by jury, to have a lawyer represent them, to bring witnesses to bear. Of course, that still is the basis for our legal system to this very day in the United States. Think about the efforts that were directed from this room with the leaders of our revolution. It was, at the very least, an attempt to free these colonies from British rule. And they didn't come to that decision easily, of course. It was after over a year of the Continental Congress meeting in this room, because they began here in May of 1775. And so not until the following year, of course, in July of 76, that they vote for separation from British rule. Now, the way that all played out is not always the way we think about it. Sometimes we tend to put it all on one day or just 1 year or something, but essentially they're deciding that they're done fighting for their rights as British subjects and that they will fight for independence instead and a new nation. And the vote for separation is July 2nd in this room. So that's when everybody understood that we were in it for the long haul for independence. But to communicate that with the world, of course, they had had one of their best writers, Thomas Jefferson, write up that declaration. And for the next 2 days after the 2nd, Congress is listening to passages of that declaration read loud, and they're reading parts of it so they can consider the entire document as Jefferson wrote it, with the help of Franklin and Adams, of course, but it's Jefferson's document. Congress will delete things here, words there, 2 paragraphs. They make about 35, 40 changes to the document. Even prior to that, Jefferson, Franklin, and Adams had already made 35, 40 changes to what Jefferson had originally written. So there are 2 days of editing that document in this room, and it happens to be the 4th of July. When it's approved, the final edit is approved. That's what happens on the 4th of July. Now, of course, as you know, many generations later, people still read from that document. They still cite it as a justification for fairness. Of course, people never forgot those words that are in the Declaration in 1776, because they are used quite simply by later generations to fight for voting rights, or to abolish slavery and other kinds of things that people consider civil rights. The Constitution that was written in this room in the summer of 1787, the gentleman who wrote that did it in such a way that future generations, if they wish, they can add things to the Constitution. It's amendable. Many of those later amendments regarding voting rights, civil rights, ending slavery, are definitely directly inspired by that earlier Declaration of Independence in this room. So you put all that together, of course, this is why people refer to this room as the birthplace of the United States. For these